Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to World This Morning. I am your host Hajra Sati and joining me is my wonderful co-host, pronunciation guru and my mentor at PTV World, Fahim Bangesh. Assalamu alaikum Fahim. How are you doing today and how is the weather today?
Assalam. Well, as a matter of fact, I'll have a different perspective today as far as the weather is concerned.
Okay.
Because finally the weather's a bit better.
A bit?
Yeah, the humidity levels are a bit better.
Okay.
And I had to switch off my AC yesterday,
Okay.
and which is, I think, a very positive development. But I don't know how long this is going to last. So
Okay.
yeah, we can't say anything about the weather
But
these days.
I think for a couple of days or for 3-4 days, the weather has been doing really fine, especially at night. We do expect some very drizzling and sometimes very strong gales and winds, and that certainly changes the temperatures. And this is the beauty of Islamabad. This is why I like Islamabad so much, because of the weather, because of the moderate weather conditions here. But before the red light went on of the camera, and we were having this discussion with Fahim, and Fahim said that let's have a discussion on the obesity.
Of course.
And this is a topic, I think, which is very close to South Asian community in particular, because you will find that there are areas, particularly in the South Punjab, where there's so much poverty, people are living in so much destitution, but yet you will find that there's a lot of obesity level which is increasing there, right?
Yes.
So Fahim, do you want to shed some light?
Of course, because you see, finally I've come to the conclusion after so many years that obesity has got nothing to do with whether you're rich or poor. It's just got a lot to do with the quality of food that you're eating, because naturally these days what we eat, it's all processed, it's not organic basically. The more organic you eat, the lesser obese you will be, but that's not the case these days. I can't say anything about you. I think you perhaps consume a lot of organic food. That's why you're all slim.
No, that's not true, because you hardly find it in the market nowadays. But thank you so much for shedding some light on it. And Fahim, there is this another phenomena. I think Pakistan is relatively safe from that diffusion, but I don't know for how long, which is genetically modified food, right?
True,
especially in the
West. GMOs, yes.
Yes, especially in the West, you will find that there is this way where they find processed canned food, and people are so much habitual of consuming that food that they actually forget how does organic food sounds like, and then you will find that the organic food is a whole another industry, billion-dollar industry, which does not have anything organic in it, because there are lots of chemicals and preservatives there,
and
right?
Also, Hajra, another thing which is quite alarming, GMO is on the western side of the world, and if we come to the eastern side of the world, we see, as far as diseases are concerned, hypertension, that is high blood pressure, and diabetes. Pakistan comes in the top 3 countries of the world which has the most amount of people with hypertension and diabetes, which actually, according to doctors, a lethal combination.
True.
Because that makes you lose less weight. If you consume insulin, inject insulin, that makes you gain weight. You have to have a very, very disciplined life, which is very difficult for our people, as a matter of fact. So obviously we move towards the obesity side, but then there are a lot of hacks for obesity. For example, the Atkins diet, the ketogenic diet, this diet, that diet.
I mean, how much do you believe in the ketogenic diets, and what do you call it, the fast, what do you call it, there's another form of it, the fasting sort of a thing. I mean, do you think this is a healthy method? Because there's an entire market out there of the ketogenic diets, and a lot of people I talk to, they're saying that it does not yield great results, but since it's trendy, it's cool, people are jumping into it. So your opinion?
I think ketogenic diet should be only for people who actually need it, not just because people who want it. There's a difference between the wants and the needs. Especially people with neurological disorders like epilepsy, it's very, very beneficial for people with epilepsy. So I think only people who need it should go for it, because like I said, many people already have heart issues, hypertension, diabetes. So I think consuming such high-fat diet is going to exacerbate the conditions, and I think would prove to be detrimental rather than beneficial.
Right. So, of course, we are going to see the benefits of that, especially for the one who are actually practicing it. But now let's move on to our top stories, which is about how the caretaker Prime Minister Anwarul Haque Kakar Saab has stressed the need for a dynamic foreign policy. to strengthen Pakistan's relationship with the other countries. He stated this while sharing his views at a briefing by the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Islamabad. Prime Minister gave specific directions on different aspects of foreign policy, with particular reference to facilitation of and the engagement with the Pakistani diaspora. And I genuinely believe, Fahim, that Pakistani diaspora, especially the one which are living in influential countries of the West, should be made use of it. They can be taken as a tool by the Pakistani state in order to further the interest of Pakistan, because we have seen how in our neighboring countries they actually use as a tool to further the interest of their particular country. And
because on one hand we have the actual diplomatic ambassadors in other countries, but these are also the civilian ambassadors. These are layman ambassadors of our country in other countries, in developed countries, representing Pakistan over there, representing the name, the flag of Pakistan, the entire population of Pakistan. So naturally, definitely, it's something really, really pertinent.
That's very true. And since we are talking about Pakistanis who are making us proud, especially in the diaspora communities, but there are also Pakistanis who are a source of strength for us, who are a ray of hope for us, who are living here and making a name for us. And particularly when we talk about the feminist discourses, when we talk about the female role models, we are really glad that we have someone here, a lady here who has been such a dynamic lady, because she has been through so much journey and how she acquired the education, and she has a very impressive CV to her name, lots of feathers in her cap. She did her PhD from Quaid-e-Azam University. She happens to be the research fellow at the Ball State University at the United States of America, and she is also teaching at the Sardar Bahadur Khan Women University, and obviously there are lots of other feathers and we will keep talking about it. But Fahim, let's talk about how much it is essential to invest on female education or girls' education in the first place, right?
I think it's pretty essential. 50% of our population is female population. And if you leave that population alone, you don't educate that population, I think the country is going to go back to Stone Age. And even our religion, even Prophet Muhammad stressed a lot on the education of everyone. He did not specify the gender of education. If you look at it, he just said, educate yourselves, iqra, read.
Right, right. So, we would also like, in this entire context, we would like to introduce our guest, because once again we would like to state her qualifications, because they're so impressive and they're such a ray of hope for us. And also she's a role model for us, because she's teaching at the Sardar Bahadur Khan Women University in Balochistan. She acquired her PhD from Quaid-e-Azam University. She's also a research fellow at the Ball State University at United States of America, and she's also visiting faculty at NAMAL, at Zabist, and at Iqra University. And we would also like to ask her journey about her traversing the educational path, and what sort of obstacles she encountered, and what sort of message she has to give to the people out there, especially women in Balochistan who want to tread the same path that she has treaded. So without any further ado, we would like to introduce Dr. Mehwish Ali Khan. Assalamu alaikum, madam, and welcome to World This Morning.
Walaikum assalam. How are you all doing?
Alhamdulillah, madam. So, madam, we are really inspired by your journey, and I'm pretty sure that this journey must be not be without any challenges. So, would you like to please recount what sort of challenges did you face in your this very marvelous journey of acquiring education and having such an impressive CV to your name in the first place?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you. I'm very delighted to be with you all here today. Yes, my journey, but I think it is not only my journey. If you just go and look around in Balochistan, there are so many impressive women who are doing very well in their respective fields. Yes, I would like to share mine. I do share my journey with my students as well, just to inspire and motivate them, because I was 16 when I got married, and I hardly had any education. I had just done my O-levels. So it was a difficult journey, but it went well. I did my master's. I got Pin of Honor. I used to carry my children along with myself to my universities, respective universities. And then I did my PhD from Quaid-e-Azam University. There also I scored well, but all this like journey and whatever I was doing, I was only doing because of the motivation that I had as a teacher, that I have to go back and serve my province and serve my country and motivate these girls there, that it is not difficult, you can do it.
Also, Dr. Saiba, like you came to Islamabad all the way from Balochistan, and you saw all the population of Islamabad, how the people were, how they were reacting to different stuff, how they were taking things for granted, because obviously in the larger urban centers we do see population which is a privileged population. We do see a clot of entitled people there. How did you feel at that time? As far as, you know, because usually what happens is people who come here from, say, Balochistan or southern Punjab, they feel a bit down, you know, okay, we have to work harder, we're not like them, perhaps we're not equals. So could you share that psychological journey of yours with us too?
Right, I would definitely like to share that, because it had a great impact on me. First of all, I had a very welcoming circle in Quaid-e-Azam University, overall in Islamabad. But yes, there is this hitch, like people are hesitant there in Balochistan. They're hesitant. The girls, they say that maybe we cannot compete with them. We cannot, because we did not have these opportunities. But it is such a wrong notion. When I came here, and not only me, almost all my friends who were in university, like University of Namal, Air University. I had friends in Islamic University, Fatma, they were excelling in their classes. So I took this example to my students, to my friends, that we do not lack anywhere. Actually, we crave for this thing. We haven't had this opportunity, so we crave for having better resources, having better opportunities, and we do not take them for granted. We are just starving for them, so we just work hard. We are very passionate, and I think we are no lesser than anybody, and it is a proof. You can just go and check the academic profiles in these universities of the capital. You'll see there are so many students from Balochistan. They're doing so well in their respective fields.
Right. Madam, thank you so much for sharing your journey, and it is certainly a ray of hope for us. But I mean, in Balochistan, we are seeing that there is a general rise, especially when it comes to awareness among people to educate their daughters out there. But obviously, behavioral change is something which is not easily done. It takes a lot of time to do that. So do you think that there is generally a behavioral change among the people of Balochistan when it comes to education? Because obviously enrollment rates are getting better and retention rates are also getting better. But we do need to have such sort of conversations, right, regarding the awareness of the girls' education and how we need to invest on them, because obviously a mother educates her entire household there,
True.
right? So what are your views there, since you're also a teacher? So do you feel that there is a shift in the attitudes of the people, especially in the past decade or so?
Yes, there is definitely a change in behavior, but I would again I feel that there is a misunderstanding about Balochistan. The parents there, families there, they since very long they wanted to educate their daughters. I am with Sardar Bahadur Khan since 14 years, and I remember fathers and brothers coming with their sisters and daughters to seek admission there. They would do anything, like they would ask the vice chancellor, the teachers to please adjust their daughters. So this thing was present there since then, but there were no resources. But yes, now when we have resources, there are more and more people who are coming towards it, and they first there was this. They only wanted to educate, or most of them wanted to educate in only girls' university. And Sardar Bahadur Khan is an only girls' university, so it was a positive thing. But now we, I teach as a visiting faculty at Namal and Butams, and I see there are girls coming there And they not only want to educate them, they also want the girls now to go into the field, because they have realized that economic independence is as important for a girl as it is important for a boy.
And also, Dr. Saiba, being a parent yourself, are you inculcating the same values, and are your children as enthusiastic about achieving something, that economic independence in their lives? Are you inculcating these ideas into their minds from the beginning, from their childhood?
Yes, of course. I actually am traveling because of my daughter. She's here at Lahore. She studies here. So one of my daughters, she's married, but she is seeking her education in media and communication. She also has a daughter, but she is pursuing her education. My youngest daughter is at Namal University, and they're all trying their level best to just go with the flow and get a degree and get economic independence and, contribute for the society.
Also, Dr. Saiba, there was a time when, question just arose in my mind when you said go with the flow, because there was a time when people used to go with the flow, climb the bandwagon, whatever everybody else was doing, they would do that. But now we have a lot of areas of study. It's not just engineering or medicine. We have social sciences, we have molecular biology, we have a lot of things. So did you ask your children to choose whatever they wanted? Did you ask them to perhaps get some career guidance, or did they just go with the flow?
No, of course, they chose whatever they wanted. My eldest daughter, she's doing her BS in media and communication. She wanted to have that. My second daughter, she's here at Lahore, and she's into fashion and design. So, and I am like people would say that she has gone to Lahore. Is she doing medical or some other any other field? So I said no, it is fashion and design, and they were just shocked that why would you send a child to Lahore only for fashion or only for arts and humanities? So I think that I'm not talking about that flow. I'm talking about the flow that seek something for yourself, like this, go with the society, go with the flow, that do something for yourself. Yeah.
Right. Dr. Saiba, so we've seen especially Balochistan is the center of, CPEC, because there's a lot of development going on, and it has been dubbed as the game changer. And recently we are also marking a decade of CPEC in Pakistan, and we had the Chinese foreign minister here. So Dr. Saiba, do you think that with the CPEC, with the development that is diffusing in the Balochistan, things are changing, and especially when it comes to education, because obviously Balochistan enrollment rate ranks really lower than the national index or the national rankings in the first place. But since you mentioned that people are enthusiastic about sending their daughters to acquire education, to the universities, to different places, and what are some of the social and cultural barriers that we as a society and a state needs to tackle in order to have this more rigorous debate about the female education or girls' education, particularly in that area?
Right. First of all, I would like to mention CPAC. I would like to mention the children coming from Gwadar, Turbat, Makran. I think their number has increased. There was this educational ratio there as earlier also, but now if you visit Quetta, you'll see that they're wearing those traditional Balochi dresses, and they're all over the city going to academies, studying different fields. So it is a positive change. They're like at Namal University, we have students, they want to learn Chinese, and they are also of the view that we want to teach Chinese, Balochi and Urdu language as well. So there is this change there. I'm sorry, I missed your last part. You were asking about social and cultural barriers, right? So social and I think there is this lack of women leadership in these circles, because we are the stakeholders. We have our stakes involved, and I feel there is this dearth of female leadership. It should be inclusive of female leadership. Females should be included in decision making. I think it would also impact the CPAC, and it would also impact all other circles, education, health, and whatnot. But I think that barrier, maybe it's a social barrier there in Balochistan, but there are women, they are working, no doubt. but I think they should be included in leadership circles as well.
Also, Dr. Saiba, like you said that you got married at the age of 16. Now, this is one of the challenges that Pakistan faces, especially where the rural centers are concerned, because girls get married off at a very early age, then they have a lot of other biological complications as well. Do you think that trend is also changing now? And I'm talking about not just the urban centers, but also the rural centers.
It has not changed completely. There are still incidences where girls, I think 16 is an overage for marriage in rural areas, maybe 13 or 14, which is a bad thing. But yes, there is a slight change. In rural areas, I think the change is like immense. But in urban areas, but in rural areas also there is a slight change. People are realizing that no, it is too early. But we need to work on that. We need to go there. We need to educate them. We need to tell them that you have to like put your daughter also in the society and help her first build her personality, build her career, or build her life in any way that is possible. And then marriage should be the second priority.
Well, definitely, Dr. Saiba, with role models like yourself coming from Balochistan, I think these priorities, these norms and values which have been there since hundreds of years, I think they will change slowly and gradually, and we do hope for the best, because Balochistan is one of the provinces which has the most potential. And I think that can go a lot more forward in terms of growth and prosperity. Thank you very much, Dr. Saiba, for joining us, for giving us your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. So now we have some very interesting discussion lined up, Fahim. But obviously we need to go on to a break, and after a short break, so we will have a very interesting discussion lined up. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, and obviously, like I alluded to before, we are having a very interesting conversation which is linked with the cultural policy of Pakistan, and culture is a subject that evokes a lot of interest, especially when it comes to me and Fahim, because obviously literature, books, films, music, industry, theatre, fine arts, these are very interesting sort of subjects and area of research, and a lot has been written about it. But when it comes to particularly Pakistan's cultural narrative, what is the cultural narrative? Do we have a narrative? What sort of a narrative do we have, and how can we rebrand our image, and how the state has been doing it in the first place? So without any further ado, we would like to introduce our guest, who will very prolifically speak about the cultural policy of Pakistan. So we have with us Dr. Sajid Awan, who happens to be the director of the National Institute of Historical and Cultural Research. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Pleasure.
Right. So, sir, we are going to talk about the cultural narrative of the Pakistan. So when it comes to Pakistan, and when we talk about the cultural narrative, what comes into your mind in the first place, and obviously how does our state wants to brand it?
Well, thank you, Madam Sati, for touching such a sensitive and such an important issue. Basically, what I see, first of all, let me express my gratitude to the PTV World for taking this talk and providing me an opportunity to interact with my sister, Dr. Mavish from Balochistan. Greetings to Balochistan, Dr. Saiba. And let's see that if you see, Pakistan was established in 1947. That was just a country that was required to be transformed into a state, and that required a narrative. No nation can exist without narrative. It gives you rationale of your existence. It gives you your identity. It gives you identification. It gives you the reason to survive. It gives you your reason to exist. I mean, we might know everything about the world, but do we know anything about ourselves? Why basically we were established as a separate country, in 1947, and basically Pakistan took birth out of the land of culture, because we were claiming that we have different language, we have different culture, we have different civilization, we have different history. Taking birth out of cultural landscape, Pakistan ignored this basically cultural dynamic, cultural policy, cultural narrative. Without having narrative, no nation can survive. You know, America was built out of that American narrative. Europe ruled the world with its narrative. When we say Holy Roman Empire, it was all basically a narrative. So, you being a nascent state, you require to have a narrative, because I will say as a student of history, because Pakistan society, Pakistani government, Pakistani policy makers, they were unable to have a viable narrative. That is why they had to face disaster of 1971. Had we been having a cultural narrative, had we been having a vision, had we been having a perspective, basically what kind of state do we need, what kind of governance do we need, what kind of policy do we need? Obviously, we have had objective resolution in 1949 under the premiership of Nawazad Liaquat Ali Khan. But by 1973, we had nothing else, nothing direction. I mean, of course, that was a broader policy guideline, objective resolution. But later on in 1973 Constitution, we inducted principles of policy. That was again national policy, not cultural policy. Still we need, we should have cultural policy. Since then it was, work was going on. It was in 1960s perhaps when President Ayub Khan, he assigned this task to Faiz Ahmad Faiz.
Yes.
He had written a report. That report, we can't find it anywhere now.
Okay.
Report disappeared. We had to face disintegration of Pakistan in 1971, and then it was declared that now that report has become irrelevant because it was in pre-1971 scenario. It never lasts. Pakistan was not basically established in 1947. It has a luggage of history right from the ancient time. Its antiquity lies back to 900 BC with the civilization of Mehergarh, with the Indus civilization,
True.
with Gandhara civilization.
True.
Should we disown all our cultural asset? That basically is not, I don't say it is simply a cultural luggage. I say it is our cultural asset. We need to know, we need to own basically.
But Dr. Saab, our state is trying to reclaim that narrative a lot, because you will find that recently our state has tried to rebrand its image, especially when you go to the Dubai Expo. Pakistani Pavilion is the best pavilion. It has been showcasing Gandhara civilization, Indus civilization.
And both our local and international media are also
true.
covering it, because definitely
That's
when we are trying so hard to tell it to the entire world that Pakistan is a country of culture, Pakistan has a great history, and being a student of history, of course, you must or might agree with us regarding that.
Yes, I'll say that, of course, this expo was a magnificent event. But after 75 years, we realized, okay, we should have at least an expo.
Right.
I mean, this is a cosmetic measure. I'll say we need surgical measures. We need to take it seriously.
What has the surgical measures?
Yeah, what recommendations would you?
I'll say that Pakistan developed its first cultural policy in 1995, right, under the premiership of Benazir Bhutto. Then later on, it was, reconsidered and modified, and we came up with another cultural policy of 2018. But I will just name the cultural policies, and you will see the gist. In 1995, we will have a cultural policy of Pakistan, CPP, right? In 2018, we have had Pakistan cultural policy. Simply looking at their nomenclature, we can feel that, okay, if we are coming with a national perspective, overshadowing this cultural perspective, they should go side by side. Now, basically what we need not only to have such kind of expos, we need to connect our youth with our land. I mean, we would be knowing Western history. We would be knowing all about American history.
Right.
If you say, do you know history of Pakistan? What Pakistan? That is why we are apologetic. When we say, where do you belong to? If I'm in America, if I'm in Europe, somewhere, if someone asks, where do you belong to? I belong to South Asia. Okay. We feel ashamed of telling sometimes that we belong to Pakistan. On the other side, people say, oh, do you come from Pakistan? We need to build this image. Look, Bangir Sahab, how these words matter. Like I utter the word of Central Asia, then its synonym is subcontinent, then other is Indo-Pak. Whenever a Muslim writer is writing history of this area, he will be writing, he or she, Indo-Pak history. Whenever a Hindu writer is writing, an Indian writer is writing, he will say Indian history.
Indian history.
Whenever any British writer is writing, he or she will say history of subcontinent. But whenever an American writer is writing, he or she will say South Asian history, because they actually don't own this word of subcontinent, just to remove the word of colonial
But Dr. Saab, having said that, but don't you think in our country we have had so many challenges, be it external challenges, internal challenges, perhaps we haven't been able to focus properly on these issues where the focus needed to be in the first place?
Exactly, exactly. This very challenge, Bangir Sahab, as you pointed out, that we take this diversity, cultural diversity, we take it as a challenge. To me, it is a strength. Just you own it, that we have different reflections in our society. This is basically a curse of modernity. Modernization wants to paint everything with the same paint. They want to tell them, okay, we are westernized, we are civilized.
True.
This is not a perspective. Cultural perspectives comes with diversity, and you need to own this diversity as your strength, not as your weakness. You will have to come out of this mindset that this cultural diversity, we are Punjabis, we are Sindhis, we are Balochs, we are Pashtun, we are Mahajir, we are Shia, we are Sunni, we are Wahhabi, we are Barelvi. These are different reflections. This is a basically bunch of different flowers. I mean, if we paint all as Punjabis, this society will go ugly. If you paint all as Americans, even then this word will not be beautiful. God basically needs variety. So,
because even, I'm sorry to cut you out, even in the Western world, we do see, for example, in Canada, they celebrate culture.
Exactly. We need to celebrate basically. We need to celebrate diversity. We need to celebrate this variety. We are basically, I sometimes feel that we are scared of this diversity. We should not be scared. We should celebrate. That is the right word, Bangir Sahab.
I think we do celebrate it, but I think the way we brand it or rebrand it, that needs to be worked on. But now let's come to the cultural policy, which is the recent one. And there's a lot of incentives that have been given in that policy, in which obviously films is one, or I would say that dramas are one of the tools through which you express your culture, or through which you promote your culture. And I think in digital century, in 21st century, no one can deny the soft power of the pop culture, and you've seen that how the content is manufactured, especially the Hollywood is such a great propaganda machine. So now let's talk about the Pakistani film and drama industry. Obviously there were some incentives on the films, but do you think that those incentives are enough in that policy, considering the fact that there's a lot of OTT platforms that are coming up and which are extremely denting the market of Pakistani films in first place, because Pakistan used to have a very vibrant cinema going culture, but now it's not that vibrant in the first place, right? So how do you see that policy and the extension into the film?
Yeah, I'll say that exactly when our 2018 cultural policy was being formed, our sitting cultural minister now, Jamal Shah, he himself is an artist. He was part of that cultural policy. Our first cultural policy, I mean, that was hatched by the legends like Qudratullah Shahab, and then Quratul Ain, then Ishfaq Ahmed, then Intizar Hussain, then Bano Qudsiya, and all those people. Similarly, now we are having Jamal Shah Sahab as our culture minister. He comes from this drama, theatre and film area.
And he's been on our show, and I would say that he's an institution in himself, because the way he talks and the way he exudes the grace and the way, I mean, he's trained a lot of people, and his contribution to the drama and the film industry is such an immense that we cannot discount him out of the film and drama and entertainment industry.
I think we should avail this opportunity since state is working on that.
Right.
I mean, state basically now needs, as you pointed out, that we should basically focus on culture, and we should basically focus on material as well as immaterial culture. We should cover tangible as well as intangible. Now, as you talk of soft power, I mean, the idea which comes from Joseph Nye, basically this is basically an idea of cultural diplomacy. You need to brand your cultural products. I mean, if you are having this cup, you can make this cup coming out of Indus Valley. You know, all the buildings and roads and infrastructure of this city which we are sitting in Islamabad. I remember the covers of the gutters here. They was basically encarved with the sign of Indus Valley civilization.
Okay.
And I feel that people working in these public sector organizations like CDA and they were having this vision. They were having this idea that we should own this culture. We should, for instance, we are having a city nearby Texela. This was basically, this is the oldest civilization, Texasela. This was the first ever university in the world.
That's true.
Known as Texasela. We need to own it. This university basically produced the first ever political philosophy of the world. It was by Kautilya Chanakya, named as a book named as Arthashastra. We need to own that. Mahabharata was written here. Ramayana was written here.
That's true.
Hinduism was developed here.
That's true.
Then the biggest state as was constructed so far was by Ashoka the Great. He was student of this very university.
That's true.
I mean, and he was a disciple of that Kautilya Chanakya. His father even, his grandfather. I mean, we need to own all this treasure. We need to own all this asset.
And how do you think we own it, Dr. Saab? Obviously, there has been a lot of talk that we don't own it enough, but I do have a slight disagreement with that, because when we were studying, especially in a Pak Studies book, in a history book, so we did have chapters which mentioned about the Indus Valley civilization, and obviously there's a lot of talk about, you know, our Islamic past versus our Indus civilization past, and there are people who say that we tilt a lot towards the Muhammad bin Qasim part and the Islamic past, but I do not, I mean, agree with that assertion, because I feel we do agree, we do own Indus Valley civilization, and when I ask people how do we own it, I don't know, I mean, I never find a very good answer.
In your opinion, what's stopping us in owning that civilization and culture?
I will give you in a very clear manner. You mentioned all these things in cuts and pieces. Look, Hajra, this basically is the debate here in Pakistan. Why could we not have cultural policy? Because some people were saying that we should develop cultural policy right from 1947. Forget everything which was in history. There was another school of thought who said, well, we can go back to Muhammad bin Qasim. We should start from 711. As if prior to that there was no human, there was no civilization, there was no culture. And there was a third school of thought who say, we should carry all this basically asset and luggage of history and culture, we should incorporate into our syllabi.
Right.
This should be our curriculum. This basically should be taught to our coming generations, that basically you are custodian of these 5 major religions of the world.
Right.
You are from the area which cradled 5 major civilizations of the world.
Right.
You are not a hollow person. You should not be apologetic. You should be proud of all this.
And I think if this is taught in the syllabi, I think it would create more patience and more tolerance in people in order to accept the diversity that we have in Pakistan.
Look, Bangar Sahab, this basically is a perspective that an area which is able to create 5 major religions, means that it is a fertile area, means it is a dynamic area, mean it is basically a producing area, mean this is a rich area. Why are we basically ashamed of this richness? Don't we own this fertility, mental fertility, that we can hatch ideas? It is not matter of hatching religions, it is matter of hatching ideas. Even today, I mean, the ideas coming from this region, if we own the vernacular intellectual property as our asset, vernacular can do marvelous. They can make wonders. Basically, what I was saying, that we need to connect our youth with the land, means we can have expos, but those expos will either be westernized or will be disconnect from the land.
Or perhaps will have a short-term effect.
Yes, short-term. Exactly, Bangar. Whenever our friends in foreign services, they say, whenever we interact with rest of the world, they say, why are you in that hurry? Always you come up with short-term planning. No. If we say, okay, we need to have long-term planning. No, long-term planning needs a narrative. Long-term planning needs a policy. Our government officials, they say, no, we have very shortage of time. We need to have policy within 2 years or with 2 months. They say, how come? Are you mad? We need to come out of this short-term policy. Well, you can have many short-term policies, but within a framework of some long-term policy. We need to have a narrative which should be given with different short-term and long-term policies. So, this at certain level we should have disconnect from rest of the world. I don't say that you drag your youth to the tradition. I say you attach them to the land, making a beautiful blend with East and West, Orient and Occidental. They can coexist. What Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan did, he made basically a fusion. He basically mixed Eastern and Western musics. Why can't we do?
And the result was phenomenal.
Yes, it was marvelous. True. And he was acknowledged all across the world.
All over the world.
Yeah, he became as a matchless musician, as a singer, as a musician. We need to come up with this mindset that we need not to live in isolation on one side, and at the other side, we need not to merge ourselves totally with the West. We need to own our vernacular. We need to own our Orient. We need not only to westernize. I mean, this basically idea of starting history from 1947, starting history from 71, 7/11, or where there was another debate. Should Pakistan be a religious society or a secular? Can't we have fusion? Can't we mix them both?
I think we already have it.
Yes, exactly. We are basically...
There's no need of debate, and I think these debates do not spring from Pakistan in the first place. These debates have sprang from the diaspora community which is living abroad. So that is why I have lots of disagreement with them, because there's this colonial notion, or I would say a neo-colonial notion associated with that. But now let's talk about the film policy and also talk about how it is an extension of a cultural policy. But we do see that there are institutions, for example, PNCA is doing a great job in projecting Pakistan's culture, and we do see that there has been exhibitions going on about the truck arts in Germany. We would see how they're displayed there, right? So what more debates that we need to have in order to own that? Because I do feel that there's a realization among the state level, and they have been doing a lot. So for example, Javed Jabbar Saab is doing amazing work. He produced a documentary which has actually owned Pakistani state narrative on what happened in 1971, and I think that was a very brilliant attempt at reclaiming back what happened and projecting. Obviously it was a late attempt, but I think Derai Durustai is a more apt description of that, right? So how do you see this recent, I would say, the cultural policy of Pakistan, and do you feel that there are any gaps in that policy that can be refilled in that sense?
Oh yes. There are many gaps, obviously. But it is very easy to say there are many gaps without giving a direction. First of all, Pakistan needs to have a narrative that all the people working in different organizations, as you say, PNCA is there, Academy of Letters is there,
Shakarpariyan and all of
those, museums and all that, and language authority is there. Basically, if you have a narrative, you will be giving it to your policymakers. Okay, you are Chief Justice, you need to work in this narrative. You are Vice Chancellor of that university, we are having this cultural national narrative. You are Chief of Army Staff, we have this perspective. You are a Vice Chancellor, you are Headmaster, you are Principal of a college, you are Headmaster of a school. We all need to work in that narrative, right? And for that matter, basically what disconnect we have, that we never own the previous culture policy. First of all, we need to own that FAS report. Then there was another report, it was again given by this half of that team after FAS. Then we need to take on account 1995 policy. Then keeping in view 2018 policy, we need to develop a connection, and all the lags and all the shortcomings and all the challenges are pointed out in those policies very categorically and clearly. So I will recommend that whosoever is going to develop any cultural policy or any cultural narrative in future should take into account all the previous works done by different organizations of Pakistan.
Okay.
All right. One. And secondly, we need to come out of this phobia that we don't need to own this diversity and we want to paint all them into Pakistani identity. Pakistani identity is diversity. Diversity is the fundamental feature of Pakistani identity that we need to own.
Right.
First of all.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Saab, for speaking so passionately about the cultural policy and how we need to revamp that and rebrand our image. And because we have seen that across the world, soft power is being used, and how it is being used to reclaim the country's strength. So, for example, I've seen the way Turkey has developed its soft power, especially with the productions of drama like Ertugrul and whatnot, and that has created a massive wave across the Muslim world for
exactly.
and how they are reclaiming back their Ottoman past and how they're projecting it. And I think we have some very brilliant legacies in our land that we need to...
Yes, I was coming to that we have a very rich history, like Dr. Saab was also mentioning, and we can do wonders if we start doing it. All that's required is that first step. I think we have taken that first step in that direction.
Right.
We just need to take more. We just need to make good teams who are very, very competent in their own areas. And I think we can do wonders in projecting our soft image to the entire world, because right now we are facing a lot of challenges, be it political, be it all the other challenges that we have. And to counter that, I think this is one of the best ways, the soft image that you mentioned, quite a right word, an apt word for that, that is required. It's the requirement of the hour, the need of the hour, and I think we can go places with that.
Right, and thank you so much once again, Dr. Saab, for coming here and for having this wonderful cross-pollination of the ideas and the wonderful debate that we have. So we will wrap up our segment and bid you farewell. So until next time, it's a goodbye, Allah Hafiz, and good morning.